Hello and welcome to Chapter 10. In Chapter 10, we're going to look at the ASA, advanced ASA. Well, basically, what we're going to be looking at is the ASDM, which stands for the ASA Security Device Manager. It's really a GUI platform to configure the ASA. So there's approximately 140 slides in this chapter. We're not going to go through this whole 100. That's going to take a few hours to do. And most of these slides are really snapshots, screenshots of the ASDM as you move along step by step. Uh, it is best, since we are going to be doing a lab experiments on this, it is best to go through the lab step by step and take your time doing it. No matter how long it's going to take in the lab, we'll take it over 2 or 3, even 3 days to complete our labs. We'll just take it step by step because that's how you're going to learn this chapter, is by actually doing it. I'll go over a few slides in here and at least how to set it up and enable it and how to actually get the GUI up and running. And then we'll take a look at a few other wizards and how to get them started, where to go to, and things like that when you need to configure something such as the SSL VPN or just a site-to-site VPN. All right, so again, the ASDM, which stands for the ASA, um, Security Device Manager. Again, it's a GUI platform to configure the ASA. All right, so here's the first thing that I want you to do, because the first thing that you need to do, I want you to write down, of course, the first thing that you're going to do is to set up the ASDM so you can actually get the GUI up and running, and you'll be able to use the GUI version instead of typing all of these commands to configure whatever that you need to configure. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do is you are going to configure a VLAN, give it an IP address. In this case, it's VLAN 1, 192.168.1.1, and name it inside, and enable Ethernet 0. Type no shut. Then you type in HTTP server enable, and then type HTTP 192.168.1.3, 255.255 inside. So that means only this guy, the device with 192.168.1.3, will be permitted to have access. He's the only one that will be able to access the ASDM. All right, so please write that down. And then the next thing, after you set it up, you prepare it, you ping the 192.168.1.1. You ping it from here. So this person from 192.168.1.3, you are going to ping 192.168.1.1. And if you get a reply, then you're all set to go. All right. Now to start the ASDM from the device 192.168.1.3, you want to enter the URL in the address. Open up a browser and you type in https://192.168.1.1. All right, and you hit enter. If you are prompted for a username and password, when asked, don't bother. Okay, don't put anything in there. Just ignore that. Hit cancel and you just keep going, and you should be okay. You should be able to, ASDM will launch and the window will look like this. Some of the windows that come up will look like that. All right, so here's the first dashboard that you're going to get. You're going to get the device dashboard and the firewall dashboard, right? You are going to be able to, you should be able to click on the device setup here in the device dashboard. Well, let me see what else. Here's the firewall dashboard. The menu bar, the toolbar, you guys are familiar with all that stuff. Let's just move on. In the configuration view, you'll be able to see device setup, firewall, remote access, VPN, site-to-site, and device manager. So this is basically where you're going to reset the router to the default configuration, by the way. So this is the NAT in the monitor to monitor. This is the ARP table, the DHCP, the dynamic ACLs. All right, but reset uh, to reset the router back to the default configuration, please write this down in case you messed up and you want to do, reset it back to factory um, default. So you go to config T, write this down, and you type configure space factory dash default. That's it. And you're back to just like resetting the router from scratch. It just ignores everything, all the configuration that you did, then you'll start from scratch. So please write that down. To reset the router to the default configuration, you go to config T and you write configure space factory dash default. All right. The other thing that we need to look at is configuring setting for ASDM. The device setup, okay, write this down. There's the device setup and device management. Okay, I know we probably passed that. Where's the device setup? Just go back here, just go back a couple of slides. Device setup right here. And the device management. We could take a look at the others later on. The device setup, I want you to write this down. So you go to the configuration. That's one of the first things you probably want to do. Go to the device setup, and in there, you want you to write down that you can configure the host name, password, system time, interface settings, and routing. So again, in the device setup, you should be able to configure. Actually, we'll go through this with the wizard anyway. You'll be able to configure the host name, the password, the system time, interface settings, and routing. In the device management, in this tab, you'll be able to use to configure a variety of features, including management access, users and AAA access, DHCP, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay, so those are the most. We'll be working on remote access VPN, also firewall. This is where you mainly come in to go to do any configuration. All right, after you launch it, just click on configuration. This is where we're going to be doing most of our work. You click on device setup, and you can go through the wizard to do all of these device setups. Right? Then you click on device management, and you'll just go through the wizard to set it all that up for you. Makes it much easier. All right, we have also, there are 4 ASDM VPN wizards described in this chapter. And those 4 wizards are site-to-site VPN wizard. Where are they? Oh, I don't see. Okay, so write these down. There are 4 wizards, VPN wizards, and the 4 VPN wizards are site-to-site, AnyConnect, this is specific to Cisco, clientless SSL, and IP security, IPsec, remote access VPN wizards. All right, so again, they take you step by step. Here's the startup wizard where you can modify existing configurations. I hope, I haven't looked at our hands-on lab, but I think we'll be able to do all of this step by step. Okay, we can go through the wizard. Here's the summary wizard when you're all done. Here's the VPN wizard. Here's the startup wizard. Okay, let me just get configuring the basic settings. So you'll be able to give the host name, the domain name, the enable secret passwords. Okay. In the management access, you'll be able to do all of that, as you can see. He's configuring the interfaces, giving them IP addresses if you wanted to. Ethernet 0. You can use a static IP. You can obtain it from a DHCP if you wanted to. outside interface settings. So this is the maximum packet size for VLAN 2. Okay. Again, you'll be able to see. So here are all the Ethernet set up. All of them are in the inside except the Ethernet 0 on the outside, connecting to the outside world, right? You can enable the switch ports with them. So this chapter, by the way, goes through step by step. In fact, it looks like a regular, a lab that you can actually go through this step by step and configuring the whole. This could be treated as a lab by itself, all 140 slides of it. All right, I just want to get to, this is configuring the time. We're not going to go through that. You can configure routing and you can do OSPF, RIP, EIGRP, everything in here by just clicking exactly what you want. Again, there are plenty of labs that you could do all of this. So there's nothing really to write down. I just want to get to, and here's the DHCP setup, services. Okay, configuring features, the network objects. So you can go into objects, into configuration, and configure all the objects that we discussed from last chapter. Service objects, adding them, adding service object groups, ACLs. Okay, so dynamic PAT, static NAT you could do, configuring AAA authentication. See how fast we're going? You could take this step by step. In fact, even with your chapter while you're reading it, they can explain, there is really not much to see. It's just a lot of slides. All right, so finally we get to an example where we're going to set up an ASA VPN configuration with a site-to-site VPN using the ASA. So what we're going to have on, imagine this, on the one end, there is the ASA and the remote site, we're going to have a router, just a regular router. So the first thing you're going to do is here it is. Excellent. So we have, this is the ASA and this is the remote router that we have. And here are all the IP addresses configurations that we should set up. And we're going to set up using the GUI on this, and we'll use the command line to configure the router 3, and they'll be able to communicate with each other. All right, so I wanted to go through this. This is a good example of setting up VPNs using the ASDM. All right, so if you need to have any reference to what all of these IP addressing while we are doing the configurations, you can always refer to this topology. All right, so now I want you to write this down. So this is the basic ISR configuration. So here, we're configuring this router first, the remote router. We're not using the GUI version. So I want you to write the basic ISR configuration on that ISR router. So you go to the gigabit Ethernet, give it the IP address, configure the serial IP address, and configure a default route exiting the 0001. All right, and then you configure the ISACAM policy. So we're creating a policy 10. We're going to use the encryption triple DES. We're going to use the hash SHA group 2. Authentication is going to be pre-share, and the crypto ISACAM key is going to be the address 209.165.200.226. Remember, that's the address 209.106.226. That's this guy right here. Okay, 226, which is the next hop address. Okay, so please write these down. This is the initial configuration of the remote router. All right, and then also on the remote router, we're still on R3. We are going to configure the IPsec VPN ACL. So again, write these down. This is the step on how to set up. This is exactly like when we covered the VPN from chapter 8, the site to site, but on this end we're going to use an ASA instead of another VPN. So if you were setting up another site with at the ASA, you're going to have to reconfigure the router, the home router, using the command line. But now we're going to use the ASA. So again, uh, now we're going to configure the ASA. So write these down. These is the commands to configure the IPsec and VPN ASL. You're doing the crypto IPsec transform set. This is the encryption that's going to encrypt the payload, right? And the interesting data, the interesting traffic. So which traffic is going to be encrypted? This is 172.16.3 to, oops, sorry about that. And to and 192 is going to 192 and 68.1. So if any traffic coming from here going there is going to take the data, it's going to go through the VPN and is going to be encrypted using ESP triple DES with ESP SHA HMAC. All right, so configure and apply the crypto map. So we take that crypto map that we created, the new crypto will remain disabled until there's a peer connection. So that's fine. Once we configure the ASA, then we'll have a VPN connection. All right, so write all of that down, and we're all set on router 3, which is the remote router. All right. If you are going to using now this is the default setup that you have to do on your router, right? This is on the ASA. So do all of those commands on the ASA just to get the GUI up and running, right? So you the enable password, named it class, VPN, name it inside, give it an IP address, enable Ethernet 01, send it to VLAN 1, make sure you type no shut. VLAN 2 is going to be the outside, right? It has the address 226. That's like the serial port that connects to router 3, right? Ethernet 00 is going to be given to VLAN 2. All right. Route outside a default route. This is how you do the default route on the ASA. This is like the interface on the regular router. This is the exit interface. So route out of this exit interface, a default route, and this is the next hop address. Here's an object, a network, an object network called inside net. So 192.168.1.0. That's going to be a net dynamic interface. You create the policy map or inspect blah, 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 and enable the server. So this is the basic settings that you will always use for a site-to-site VPN on an ASDM. All right, now I know this is just a basic setting. Now we're going to set up what type of encryption you need. I know you have to do a lot of command lines, even though all of these commands have to be done. This is assuming a factory default settings for an ASDM. So you still have to do all of that stuff and before you get to the GUI. Next, you are going to launch the site-to-site wizard. So, and you click on next, and then you're going to identify the peer device in the peer device identification windows. So this is this window right here, and then you're going to type 209.165.201.1. All right, and then the next step you're going to do, identify the interesting traffic. So this is really self-explanatory. Identify the interesting traffic in the traffic to protect. Then the next step, you're going to secure the selected traffic in the security setting. And then determine whether NAT should be exempted in the NAT exempt window. That's what we just passed. Okay. And then verify and commit the configuration at the end. So once all the setting and you're allowing iKey version 1. Once you identify everything is good. So what you need to do is ping, establish a VPN tunnel connection to the remote by pinging. So ping 172.16.3.3. Once you get a once you get a response, you know that you already went through the tunnel itself and it's successful. All right. So to monitor the VPN tunnel, so you can actually click on monitoring to see if it's operating correctly, to make sure everything is running nice and smooth, right? You can look at all the statistics, but this is probably a little bit more beyond what this class is about. We just want to be able to do the configuration itself. You should be able, I mean, if you need to use it, you can easily go through to monitor and look at the statistics, everything that you need about the tunnel itself, to see if the crypto statistics, if the compression was there, everything else that you can see there. I can't actually see some of the slides correctly, but anyway, verify the tunnel connectivity from the external host, right? So you want to ping 192.168.1.3. Make sure you get a reply. All right, remote access VPNs. This is where we're going to set up the SSL, right? Where you can actually just type in an HTTPS number and get directly connected to a website, where you don't have to do configuration on the home end. On the remote end, you'll be able to do all the configuration. So somebody with a laptop, just all they have to do is open up their browser, type in the URL with HTTPS, and they'll have a VPN connection. All right, so IPsec VPN, right there, the following down. Okay, so what I want you to do is write the first sentence here. Is a layer 3 VPN technology and its conventional teleworker remote access solution. Okay. SSL, on the other hand, is a layer 7 technology, right? Created by Netscape in the mid 1990s. And this is to ensure the communication over the internet using a web browser. SSL does not require any pre-installed VPN software, which is great. I mean, this is the whole idea. So I want you to write at least to differentiate between the IP security versus the SSL. So write at least the first sentence of each. Okay, comparing them between the IPsec and SSL, even though mostly we use SSL, authentication is very strong with IP security because you get choices of what you can and cannot, different protocols. Same thing with encryptions. The connection complexity, of course, with SSL is very low. You don't need anything, in fact, right? All right, so how do you do that? You just go to any of these. You can go use the AnyConnect VPN wizard or the clientless SSL VPN wizard as well. All right, the SSL session establishment. There are, let me see if there are, no, right here. So here are the phases that you're going to do for SSL session. The first phase 1 is the client and the server negotiate authentication and encryption and key exchanges. So that's phase 1. And then in phase 2, the server will send the certificate to the client. And in phase 3, the client will send its certificate to the server. A session key is calculated and the encryption algorithms are activated. In phase 4, the data transfer begins with the exchange of the session keys. All right. So in this case, you're typing in the IP address. Once you type in that IP address on here, then the 4 phases will immediately occur without you even recognize this. You'll be sent that certificate. You'll keep that certificate, and you'll always use the public key in that certificate to encrypt your data and send it back to the server. Okay. All right. AnyConnect is specifically for Cisco. So you could do the same thing. You still have to install the AnyConnect software on your device. So Cisco AnyConnect is available. You know, you can put it on Androids, on Blackberries. You can put it on Apple iPhones, laptops, of course. All right. The ASDM provides two tools for initially configuring a clientless SSL VPN. So those are the two tools that you should be familiar with. You have to write this down. Okay. The ASDM Assistant and the VPN Wizard. The ASDM Assistant, I want you to write this down. This feature will guide an administrator through the SSL configuration. The Wizard, the VPN Wizard, it simplifies the SSM configuration. It's pretty much the same thing, really. You can use either or. It doesn't matter. Here's a sample example of what you need, what you could do to. Here's a guy that wants to connect to the clientless wise, right? Clientless VPN. And so you can go into the SSL VPN wizard and you can go through all the steps, step by step, and on how to do this. We don't have to go through this. We can try this in lab, in fact, to do all of these step by step, and they tell you what to do, and you can take your notes. That's all really I wanted to cover. I know there's a lot. We skipped right through this. We skimmed it, I know. But again, when we do it in the lab, I want you to take your time, take notes if you need to. If you want to do it once or twice to set it up, that would be fine. But again, so you're going to learn this chapter by doing the lab. And so when you're doing it, please take it step by step because it's all Go version. There's not really much to do. There's no new theory in here other than just using the ASDM. All right, so this is all I wanted to talk about. And there's one more chapter that we need to cover, chapter 10. So until chapter 11, I think. This is chapter 10. Until we see each other in chapter 11, make sure you write up all the notes that I told you to and upload them. All right, I'll see you then.